Democrats and Republicans in Congress have unveiled a massive bipartisan spending bill.
If approved, the $1.7 trillion package would continue funding the government through late next year. Leaders in the Senate and House aim to pass the spending bill and send it to the president's desk this week. The legislation must be signed by President Biden by Friday to avert a government shutdown after temporary funding runs out.
Joining us now from Capitol Hill is CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Thanks for joining us, Scott. What stands out to you in this newly released enormous spending bill proposal? And is there any chance it can get passed by Thursday?
It's a good chance it gets passed by Thursday. In fact, it has to get passed by Thursday to avoid a partial government shutdown. The stakes are high, and the dollar figures inside this bill is high as well. It's a $1.7 trillion plan backed by taxpayer money to keep the government open through October. About half of the money, a little less than half, is for military or Department of Defense spending. That was a priority of Republicans, to have a large proportion of this money be directed towards the military and the U.S. Department of Defense. There is Ukrainian aid money in this bill. That is critical, some members of Congress tell me, because House Republicans have flirted with the idea of reducing or chopping off aid to Ukraine when they take control of the U.S. House in January. But bottom line is that this is a huge piece of legislation. It's more than 4,100 pages. It is triggering all kinds of flashbacks among those of us here at the Capitol who are speed reading this thing, remembering how bad we were at that in high school and college. Inside the bill will be some number of things that don't seem like they have to be in a government shutdown bill or a government spending bill. Among other things, it's a ban on TikTok on federal government employee phones in this legislation. That could impact tens, if not hundreds of thousands of federal workers. They'd no longer be permitted to use TikTok on their government phones. There's been increasing concern, including at the federal level, about the connection TikTok has to the Chinese government and its collection of data. So that would be off the table for federal workers. There's an Electoral Count Act in this bill to change a bit the procedures or the laws governing the counting of electoral votes after future presidential elections. They're trying to avert another January 6th. So if this passes in future elections, more members of the House and more members of the Senate would need to object to challenge any state's electoral votes, giving less bandwidth also and eliminating any discretion formally of the sitting vice president. And then there's security money. The U.S. Capitol Police get more funding and more of a mandate to protect members of Congress when they're outside this Capitol dome. That comes in the wake of the attack on Paul Pelosi and the shooting at the baseball practice held by House Republicans 5 years ago. There is increasing concern about safety of members of Congress. All this and much more in this 4,100-page bill.
Well, Scott, speaking of security in the Capitol, and I know you've been cramming there for finals, but I do want to take you back to yesterday. As we know, the January 6th committee's final public hearing made criminal referrals against the former president, Donald Trump. Is there any news, any indication from the DOJ that it will act on those?
Yeah, they're not commenting on this, which is their past practice. If there's an open investigation, they won't talk about it until or unless there's a criminal charge filed. That won't change here. Criminal referrals are just that. They are recommendations, their opinions. We've checked back on what types of referrals the Department of Justice typically gets. They often get them from local police departments. They would like the federal government to pick up a case of note at the local level. They come from federal government inspectors and auditors when they come across something and want the Department of Justice to potentially charge a crime. This is different in so many ways, but one way it's different is that the Department of Justice typically takes referrals when it's unaware of a crime or a case. They're very aware of what happened January 6th. They have their own grand juries convened. They have their own investigation underway. They've even named a special prosecutor, a special counsel to take over the lead of the January 6th investigation. This is basically an opinion, but I'll add, it's a pretty informed opinion. This committee amassed quite a bit of credibility over an 18-month investigation with 1,000 interviews and more than 1 million records collected.
Well, we look forward to you breaking down the full report for us, too, since you've been going very fast through reading material. Scott MacFarlane, thank you.
Thank you.